What was I doing? Okay, so set. What do you want to set the job description to now? You want it to set to market analysts. For all those people who are analysts. Now, how to see the result? There are two things. You can look for analyst and you will have an empty table because all analysts have gone to market analysts. They've all changed. So there will be no analyst now in your table. Or on the other hand, you can look for market analysts now so that you know, oh, these are the persons who were analysts and now they have become market analysts, whatever. The idea is to check the answer. So if you check analyst, you should get no records because they've all become market analysts. If you want to say, oh, these persons were analysts and now they're market analysts, that's what you check. So pick up the three statements and run them. And let's look at the answer. So Ford and Scott were analysts and now they have become market analysts. And notice how it says 2 rows were returned in the bottom window. So that means 2 rows were updated. Make sense? So update doesn't have an output. So you can assume it works. But that assumption is not something that any programmer risks. Testing is always done. So maybe the testing is done on 100 records instead of 1,000 records, but the testing is always done. Okay, so will I need to see this? It would be good to see that you are doing it before and after, but I can dock off marks if I say I want the update statement. I'm not expecting you to write selects for me necessarily, but then if you're so confident about yourself, sure, it's up to you, right? Update all null commissions to 0. So anything that is null, anybody who has null commission, which remember I did make one null. I changed it from not null to null and I made it. So you'll say there are no null commissions. What is she asking? Don't worry about it. I want to just show you how it works. And we've changed it anyway. Okay, so update all null commissions to 0. So let's again select the employee name. And I'll select his or her commission. Notice the field, come on. The fields I choose, I kind of keep it to the minimum so that I don't have to kind of look through it. Okay, so I want to change all the commissions to 0 wherever they were null. So assign 0 wherever they were null. And be careful, it's again is null. In the where condition, it is always is null. What doesn't it like? What doesn't it like? It has a red squiggly. Oh, select. Oops, sorry. Update. That's what it doesn't like, cheating. Where copy and pasting doesn't usually work. So now let's do this. Let's select it. What do you want to select? You want to select these guys, these fields. From which table? From the table employee table. Where what? Where the commission is null. So we had one person with null. We put it, we changed the data. From your last week, I changed the data. For the last record, I've made it null. And I've removed the not null from the table description, just to show you. And again, we'll go here. And we'll copy it here. There should be nobody with null now. So I'm saying, show me everybody who has null commission. Now change this null to 0 and then show me again the null. Now you'll say, what if it was not changed to 0 but something else? In that case, look up the zeros once then. But then many will come. You know what I mean? There is only not one with 0. There are many with 0. But sure, if you want to check the ones with 0, you can do that. Show me who is null now. So be careful who was null so that we can check his name in the last list. So pick this up and run it. I have an error. Employee name does not exist. Spelling mistake somewhere. Do you see a spelling mistake somewhere? It says employee name doesn't exist. Employee name? What was the spelling of employee name? There it is, employee name. How come it doesn't exist? That's what it's saying. Employee name doesn't exist. I don't see a wrong spelling. That's strange.
We have update employee name and commission instead of the table.
Thank you. No. How silly is that? Update the table name. Of course it's wrong. Logically it's wrong. The error was not so helpful, but you were, thank you. So you have to update the table, set the commission to 0 where commission is there. I think I need a break, right? Anyway, so let's try that once again. Update statement was wrong. Okay, so let's look at who had null. I thought we put one guy as null, didn't we? Commission as null. Oh, that I did in my, that I did in my assignment. Now here, let's see, is there somebody with null? Uh-oh, there is nobody with null. Okay, let's take the last guy. Change his commission to null, please. How will we check if the answer is correct? Save your script and run the whole script again. I did that in my assignment, not here. There is nobody with null. So how will we check our answers? And I don't want to do it manually. So now to check your answers, where are you? There you are. Okay. So this is the last one. They're all zeros, but let's see who was null. Miller was null. Let's check if Miller is in the new list. There he is, Miller at the end. So that's what I said. You could have just checked who was null and then check him in the list or her in the list. Or you could have said, show me the null ones, and then you would have seen anything. But that didn't ensure you that it changed to 0. Now you have double checked that it changed to 0. Okay, so I've changed my last records commission to null to show you what the answer is. Okay, let's do one more and then I'll give you a break. It says update Miller's hire date to January 25. So let's write the select statement first. Select the employee name and his hire date or her hire date from the table employee, where the employee name is Miller. Exact match. And of course, once we do that, we also want to update it and check again. So we'll do a Control C, a Control V, and another Control V. And in the update statement, we'll change this and set his hire date. Now be very careful, guys. When you are setting, we are still casting. So set the hire date. Don't forget that rule that you don't work with dates like text or numbers. You cast them. If you're using text or number, whatever you're using, you can use either of the format, in quotes, without quotes, but you have to cast it. So assign it a value, cast it into, so we have to set it to something 25th January, I think, 1982. So cast it what? So the date is 1982. The month is 01 and the date is 25. I'll use single quotes so that I stick with one convention. Where employee name spelling is wrong, that's 1. Employee name spelling is wrong, that's 2. Employee name spelling is wrong, that's 3. And I still see a red squiggly. Not sure why do I see a red squiggly, because this should be called update and we are good to go. I still see a red thing. Have I missed something? Oh, of course I've missed something. The quotes come here and not here. There, now the red has gone. So as long as it is red, something is wrong, right? So there. So don't forget to cast. You could have done the other casting also. Without quotes, no dashes, no slashes are also allowed. But you have to cast. If you don't do it, you're definitely losing marks in your assignment. I will make a note in the assignment saying, please cast your dates. But without going it says. You will say, but it works sometimes. Otherwise, yeah, it works. But I'm not looking for works sometimes. I'm looking for works at all times. So this person, I don't know, I think he was 20, excuse me, from what I can remember, since I've just done this yesterday. He was 23rd January. And we've changed him to 25th of January. Works, right? So you can change any field, doesn't matter which fields you are changing. It really doesn't matter which fields you are changing. How many more to go? Oh, 3 more to go. Okay, take a break. If there was one, I would have completed it. So take a break, come back in 20 minutes, and then we'll complete this. And I want to do something else too with you. So please email me. Don't forget to email me with your mark and any question if needs to be rechecked.
Yes. When you open the program, is it normal that you have to reconnect to the database every time?
You have to first run the SQL server.
Yeah, but does it make it, you do it every time you open a program?
You have to connect it.
But after the first time?
Once you connect it, then you're okay.
Is it? Okay.
Once you connect, when you come to class, then it's okay. It shouldn't lose connection.
Okay.
Guys, I just need the total marks, not the breakup, okay? Don't send me the breakup. Just the total marks will do, I believe you. If you give me a breakup, then I'll have to keep opening the whole email to see your total mark.
What's it out of, sorry?
It's out of 30, I think. Because there were 14 queries and then 2 marks for name and date. Sure.
This solution. But for example, of course, that correct way you would be like using this, right?
Yeah.
But how would you, how have you define fellowship?
I won't show you the one with the not null. That won't even come up.
So that's the.
Yeah, that's the point, right? So it doesn't, when you work with numbers like equal to 0 or whatever, then the nulls are completely ignored.
Oh, okay. So if
So
I
it's
want
the wrong answer,
to put the no inside the
Answer.
the answer, so I
Then
have to
that's
put,
what we have.
oh, okay.
So anything that's defined or undefined we're talking about is you have to work with null. Because otherwise it just doesn't, it's not a part of the data,
Yeah, exactly.
right? So therefore the greater than 0 is useless.
How many points I have to take?
You get a 0. If you have the,
Everything?
no, 0 for this query.
Okay.
Each query is 2 marks.
2 marks.
Each query is 2 marks and your name and date is 2 marks.
Thank you very much.
No problem. Not 0 for the whole thing. No.
It's gonna be refreshing.
Yeah, you can.
There's a website, I think, which shows it. And it shows you like all the previous.
You're gonna see everyone just like walk into the resin. Just like, ah.
Is this really something?
Pretty sure like 90% of live apparently. That's when they were hoping to have it all done and ready by.
Guys, just your total marks, please, in my email. No breakups are required. It's a long email otherwise.
That's what the next. They were hoping that everyone at that site. That's what I thought. I thought it was gives me a drink.
Yeah, they wanted to take the house will be. They think it's shut down.
Just the sounds, that's what we're talking about. She sounds so that she didn't really think that's
I got this scholarship,
Oh, yeah.
computer science, to go to Denmark to take an entry course for 1 month in Denmark. That is from July 2nd to July 22. So there are 2 weeks. And I may be outside 15 days in Sweden. So if I can do my assignments online or something.
The assignments that will be given after the break will be a group assignment. But if there is no other option, then maybe you can just do them individually. Okay? So listen to my YouTube lectures and everything will be posted on Blackboard and try to do them then. If that's the time when it will be given. Maybe they are not. Maybe it will be in August when you come back. Who knows? Right? So if whatever there is, you keep on top of it. So before you leave, send me an email. Let me know that I'm leaving from this to this. And then you keep in touch so that I don't forget that you're
For
gone.
sure.
Right? And then you
I
just do
keep
that.
doing it.
Yeah. Do that. So it's 2 weeks, right? But you let me know when the time comes. I'll forget.
No
Okay.
worries. I'll let you. Thank
Okay. Take care.
We should go there. Yeah, there's nothing. You can really just require. Yeah. It's pretty easy.
It's like trailers like what you can use.
I think that, yeah, that's like the. One time we the same road, as soon as you go to the green, they'll say, "Do you want to fly?" He's doing one, people on the side of me. It's like, yeah, you just. It's like that, like cuts away, and then comes back later, he's like, maybe 3 feet forward. He's right up on the corner, he's like, ooh, yeah. Yeah, I'm back. This area.
So I had my computer course when we started between 2 classes and I connect to the database. And I'm following the troubleshooting about the page over the last. And it's the same server. What does it say in guest connection? Does it say lazy? It says it just can't connect to the server.
Yeah.
Am I just not connecting to the Wi-Fi properly?
You have the server going, right? You
I
have your
did.
WAMP.
It's not connected anymore.
Okay, so start your WAMP or XAMPP, or what server do you have? So this won't connect if your server is running, right? So you have WAMP, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so connect it. But first, is the WAMP, the server is not running.
No.
So first run the server. Double clicking on it will execute the file, won't it? No, that's okay. Okay, let's see. So once it runs, you'll see a green W here.
Okay.
Oh, there is it. Okay, so it will turn to green. If it doesn't turn to green, it has not been installed properly. There. Okay. Now open your thing. Okay, and now go to home. Go to your home. Okay, and open. Okay, double click on that one. There you are.
Okay, so now.
Connected.
Okay.
Yeah. So the server has to run, right?
Okay, so do I need to open that each time now?
The WAMP server?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You shut off your system.
Okay,
So now for the whole, if it's on, it's on.
Okay.
So you right click and exit when you're finished class.
Okay, thank
Okay,
you.
no problem. Okay, let's move forward, guys. Let's go to the next one. 17 says update Martin's information. He is now a manager and will not have any defined commission. So that we have to kind of change two things. We have to change his job description to a manager, and we have to change his commission to null. It does not have a defined commission. So he'll never get a commission is what it is saying. Null kind of says this doesn't exist. That's what it means. Okay, so let's get Martin's information first. We'll select the star because I want all his information, no big deal. It's just one record with some fields, though you could have said three things: name, job description, and commission. Right, so there he is. There is the information, and again, you can always take only the employee name, only the job description, and I'm again just being lazy because I know it doesn't have many fields. Okay, so let's do it. So now let's see what we have to do. We have to update the table employee. Right? We have to set, and notice how do I set more than once, more than one fields. The job description has to be set to manager, I think it said, right? And the commission, so we don't say and, we put a comma. And the commission has to be assigned a value null. Remember, here you're seeing assignment. This is not equal. Please remember, this is not the relational operator equal. This is an assignment operator. So when you want to assign a value, then you use the normal assignment, right? Then you use the normal assignment. So till now I've been kind of saying is null, is not null, is all that is available. But remember, that's in conditions. That's in conditions. Assignment is just a normal assignment. So I'm saying take the person Martin, change the job description to manager and the commission to null. So when you set more than one values, you need commas. Now, as a hint, so that if you see it in an exam or an assignment, you know what it is. You can do more than one, you can do bulk updates together in update. For example, if you are coming from India, for example, if the international students are coming from India, their new country is Canada. Or if the international students are coming from, say, Portugal, their new country is USA, something like that. So there is a case statement that you can use with update, something like switch in Java, same concept. There is a case statement that you can use with update when you want to make bulk updates depending upon a condition. So if this, then do this. If this, then do this. I would recommend that you look at this case statement of update before your midterm so that you have an idea, okay? Because there will always be something that I have not done in class, though I have mentioned it, and you may have to look it up in the manual, okay, for the exam. Okay, keep that in mind. Okay, let's see if this works. So this person called Martin, I have no clue who he was or what he was. So let's look at who he was. Uh-oh, table employee doesn't exist. Now what did I do? DB drinks. Oh, because I ran the other script. My bad. See, look at the error. It says DB drinks dot table employee doesn't exist because DB drinks is active. Now, instead of doing that, I can actually do this also. I don't have to run the script again. I can, oh, the main thing is, what is it called? Table employee, DB employees. What is my database called? Just so that you know. So the active one, because I was running my assignment before I was putting it on Blackboard, just to see if everything was okay. I kind of ran it and it made the DB drinks active. If I can, see, so the DB drinks is active and therefore it is choosing the table from there. If I can go to DB employee, and is there a way of saying make it active? Load, set, filter, copy, send, create, drop, search, refresh all. I don't know what refresh all will do. No, doesn't help. I was trying to make it active from here. Oh, well, can do it. I'll have to run the whole script. So the problem is, because I was running a different script, the use statement was different. But again, we are only interested in the last two. So here he is. Martin has become a manager and his commission has become null. But what was it before? Martin was a salesman with a commission of 1400. So it has updated it, right? So something to pay attention to here is when you use null in an assignment statement, you use the normal assignment operator. Then you don't say commission is null. It's when you check it in your where conditions, when you check it, there is where you kind of say is null or is not null. So this was a simple assignment statement, but with more than one fields. We have two fields. They have to be separated by comma, not by the word and. You don't need more than one set. You only write the word set once. Okay. So you see it can be done. Let's go to the next one. Update all records. All records means there is no filtering. So if all records have to be updated, you don't require a where clause. So I don't know what they are, but let's say select the employee name, to keep it short, and the commission, because commission is being updated from the table employee. Okay, So I don't know what the commissions are, but all it has to be done is, and null will be completely ignored. Null is not defined. Null records, null commissions, you can say. And this is what, therefore, it is important that you use null commissions properly with null or is not null are ignored. You can't do anything with them. You're basically saying they don't exist. So adding 500 to not exist doesn't make sense. And there is one record with null, keep in mind, and it will come up. So I'm saying, show me the commission and the employee name of all employees. To show you what I mean is this. So the person, the last person, Martin or Martin, yes, Martin. See, Martin has now changed his position. Martin was the last record in my insert. Now he's coming at third or fourth or whatever position. So this kind of proves to you that the sequence is not reliable. Anyway, so here he is. Martin is here with null commission. Okay, now I want to add 500 to all commissions. So what do? You update it. Update your table. Set the commission and add 500 to it. Now there is no shorthand form. The plus equal to, like in Java, it's not available here. So you'll have to do it this way. The shorthand, the plus equal, I hope you remember from your programming fundamentals, you can use the short and remove the commission. Unfortunately, when I tried it yesterday, it came up with the red squiggly. So I kind of gave it up. I didn't even go and check. Maybe it was something else, but it said it became red. So I kind of said, leave it alone. Okay, here. So everybody's commission will go up, but you will notice that Martin will stay at null. And that's what I'm trying to bring to you, that null means I don't exist. It's not defined. So if you're checking, if I'm saying, give me the undefined costs, and you're saying cost is not equal to 0, you're not doing what I'm asking. So whenever you see that magic word defined or exists, think what she's talking about, okay? And you have to understand it anyway. Something that doesn't exist, how can you talk to it? How can you say increment yourself by 500? It does not exist, it's undefined. Let's now do all these three and see if we have the right answer. So everybody has gone up. There were zeros here, and there was a 300, a 400, and a 500. Martin was at null. So 300, 400, and 500 should go up to 800, 900, and 1000. The rest 500s have been added. Martin has been left alone. Martin will not participate because Martin's commission is undefined. Make sense? Right? So the undefined is something that you have to kind of keep in mind. Okay, let's go through the next one. 19th now. No, there is it. Update the first two records, set commission to 0. Now again, we are at the first two records. And again, I'll just again make this note to you that I know that you'll say, oh, my 2 could be different from her 2 or his 2. Don't worry about it. What I'm trying to show you here is the use of limit, right? Yes.
Is there a limit to how many records you can update at once?
Oh, no. There is no limit to how many you can update at once, but they're all the first 10 or first 15 or first 20 because limit only takes a number.
Okay.
That's the limitation. But how many? No, because you can update the whole table also, right? So there is no limit. Okay, so update the first two records. Let's look at what the first two records are. So select star from the table, PBL employee. And limit it to the first two records. So I'll go 0, 2 so that you can see the difference, okay? Then I'm going to update my table. And I'm going to set the commission to 0. And I will say limit of 2. I cannot say 0, 2. Syntactically, it is not allowed. And then I'll show you the two records again, keeping my fingers crossed that nothing changes from one to the other. And just to show you that you can use this also without the 0, but you can't use this with 0. So that tells you something is wrong. So limit only takes one parameter in the update syntax. It cannot take 2, right? So you cannot say update records 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kind of stuff. You can only do the first. There are workarounds, but syntax wise, it's not allowed. Okay, so I don't know who the first two, which are the first 2 records. Let's look at the first 2 records. So I have King and Blake, and their commissions are, oh, this is the second one. I have King and Blake, and their commissions are $500 each, and they have been set to 0 now. Now, the second select statement could have given me anything, because again, I don't know, but we were right. Right? So that's limit. To bring to your notice, that limit only takes 1 parameter. How many? From start. Only takes 1 parameter. That's the limit. That's the limitation. Okay, clear? But keep in mind, I haven't done many where conditions or compound conditions or ins and not ins. But whatever I have done in select with where holds in update also. There is no difference. You still have a where condition. So everything that you've learned in select clauses, which we've done quite a bit, right? We've done at least 50. We've done some in class. You've done some assignments. I did some in class last week to last week. So we've done quite a few of selects, and I've shown you quite variations of where clause. All that holds in update also. For update, the emphasis was more on the set statement rather than on the where clause. So everything holds. You can't forget it. Oh, it didn't work. Can I do it here? You can do whatever. The where is a where. Filtering is filtering. Okay, let's go to delete now. The delete clause looks like this. It says delete from the table name, where condition, optional, limit, optional. And again with limit, the limit how many. The limit how many is again the limit how many. In this sense, what I want to say is you again can only use 1 parameter with limit. So Adams has left the company, delete his record. So let's first find out, was Adam even in the company? Again, the same concept, checking. So I'm doing a select star from table employee, where the employee name, you know what, off, I am going to give it up now. I'm kind of tired of caps lock and off caps lock, and I don't know why I started it at the first place. Okay, so here is, do we have an Adams in our company? Yeah, looks like we have an Adam. All we want to do is delete him, delete his record, right? So the syntax is delete from the table name where the employee name is Adam. Delete him. And now when you try to find him, of course, you should get an empty table. Again, the select clauses are written so that you can double check your answer. Because delete again doesn't show you anything. But again, in the bottom window, you will see that things have happened, right? So let's do this. So there was, oh, I've already deleted him. No, I haven't yet. It was only selection. Okay, so there's Adam, right? And there is no Adams. And notice here, it says one, if you kind of see, why is there a 0 returned in the last? Because no selection. So 1 was selected when I did the first select, 1 was deleted when I did the second delete, and the 0 was the third select because nothing got returned. Right? So you can kind of always, you should know how to read this output window also, because as I said, you may not always be double checking, though hopefully you will be. Delete the records of all employees who joined the company in 1982. Now, I can do it in 2 ways, a lengthier way and a shorter way. Definitely we would like the shorter way, but let me show both to you. I'm going to select the employee name. I know star is easier, but more data to see. From the table. And who joined the company in 1982. So I'll do it both so that you can see both. I'm going to use one way, I'm going to write it this way. I'm going to say that, so if the person was employed in 1982, it means the hire date is greater than or equal to something and the hire date is less than or equal to something. Now, what is it greater than or equal to? We'll have to cast it. Cast what as date? So, in 1982. So, 1982 0101 as date. So, this is his beginning date, right? That's 1st January of 1982. And when did he, if it was 82, then of course the last date is what? 31st of December. So take the 31st of December, so month and date. And it's perfectly fine. There is nothing wrong in it. Though I see a red squiggly. Let me see, why do I see a red squiggly? Because I forgot the, here. Quite lengthy, but I'm going to do the same thing now, the same select statement, and I'll show you a better, not a better, I mean, it's an easier one. It's like, if it is available, why don't I do it? Same like your string function. I want to say this person was hired in 1982. So I'll take the year out of the hire date and I'll compare it with 1982, which is a number. Definitely see which one is easier to write. And I think it's more easier to read also. Right, so I'm saying is the year 1982. So there should be nobody in 1982 after I've deleted it. So let's delete them. So delete from table employee. And I'll use this one just because it's more, I don't know, I find it easy to understand. And the whole thing is, it is available. Why would I write this, cast, and so on and so forth? So these were people who were hired in 1982. So 1st January 82 to 31st of December 82. Then I deleted them. And then when I want to see them, I shouldn't have anybody. Right? So this hire date year 1982 is just a number. It is it's an integer. It's not a date. It's nothing. It's just a number. So you don't have to put it in quotes and you don't have to cast it as anything. Try it. So there will definitely be some people who were hired in 1982, if I can remember. So 2 people, Scott and Miller, were hired in 1982. And after I deleted them, there is nobody in 1982. So proves that they were deleted. Right? So done. So what am I bringing to your notice? If there is an year function, there is a month function. There is a day of month function. There are so many year functions. So always go back to kind of think, because you're programmers. You've done programming fundamentals also. Maybe you are not yet there at the top level, which you can because you've just done 1 year, but you can think like a programmer. Is there an inbuilt function that will allow me to find the year? Why not? Go and use it. So is there a string function that will give me the last character of my string? Is it something, so instead of using like percentage, goal percentage, you could have used substring now. Now you know. Or something else, not necessarily substring, because I don't know where it lies. I don't know the position, but something else. In string, I think. Can you find in string in it? So look for a string function, then you don't use like, but you use that. But because like is easy, we don't bother. Like is easier than looking for a string function. But that doesn't mean that you should not be aware of it. Okay, so that's done. It says delete the first 5 records. So we are kind of back to the same thing. But my aim is to show you the limit. I'll go select star from the table name. And the limit is 5. Again, you can use a 0,5 here. Remember in select clause. Now I want to delete from the table. And I can't use a limit of 0.5. I have to go 5. Oh, it doesn't like something else too. Oh, delete. How can I forget that I have to change the verb? There. And the first 5 will be gone. So you could do everything. You could show everything. Here you're only showing the 5. Maybe you could show 10 just for the heck of it. But here when you'll see the new 5 will come up. Those are the different 5 that will come up. Oops. And just again, so that you don't forget, you can give this either way, 0, comma or 0 without. So let's see what are the first 5 records. Okay, so the first 5 records are King, Blake, Clark, Jones, and Martin. And the next 5, I'm assuming, of course, they're not there, so they've been deleted for sure. But again, the ordering is something that I don't say anything about. And I don't know how many are left. I still only showed the next 5. You could have just showed everything. I think there were 11 in all, if I was not mistaken. Right? So again, limit. I'm trying to bring your notice to the limit. Limit only takes 1 parameter. Keep that in mind. Usually because select takes 2, students get confused with why isn't it working? It just takes 1 parameter. Last but not the best, it says, can I delete all the records? Of course you can delete all records. And also keep in mind that deleting all records is different from dropping the table. When you drop a table, the table is gone. Physically it's gone. There is not even a table by that name. When you delete all the records, the table exists and it is an empty table. Okay, so how do you delete all records? You delete from the table without any condition. Oops. There, nowhere condition. Obviously nowhere condition. Everything will go. You will have an empty table. Do you want to see that empty table? Sure, you want to see that empty table. Let's see that empty table. So let's run the whole script for once. So we are looking at an empty table at the end. That wasn't a good idea, right?
If you run it and then like backspace and delete it and then run it again, do you get your table back?
Don't run the last statement and you'll get it back. Right? So there is my last empty table. Before that, I had something. Remember those 5 records, but I don't have anything. That's my empty table. So definitely, if you want to get back to original, you will only you don't have to run the whole script. You have to run till where you wanted your table to be created. And of course, you will remove your delete statement. So you run till here, where you created your database and your table is back. Right? But then, of course, if you run the whole script again, it's gone. So you can remove that statement if you like from the end. But I'll keep it there. But I'm saying beware, all records will be deleted. So that's about delete. Again, the condition, the filtering using where is open, whatever you've learned in select. So update and deletes are much easier because you put in so much time in select. You've already done everything in select, right? Now I want to do something else with you. I have enough time. I want to do an auto increment primary key that I haven't done with you at all. Till now, whenever you've created a primary key, you've done it from the table. It has always been in the table. So you choose a student ID works, yes. A donut name works. We kind of said, okay, we'll take it, yes. An employee ID works, perfectly fine. But there is this notion that if you cannot find a field or a combination of fields that will act as a primary key, then what do you do? Because the minimum that you require is the first normal form, minimum. So what do you do then? So the option is you tell the system, you tell MySQL, you tell the database, you create a primary key for me. And how do you tell that is what we want to do today, right? So I would recommend, I don't want to write a whole script again. So what I'm going to do is, if you can't find it, it's on Blackboard. I'm going to open a script that you did in week 3, which was called something donuts. Because there we took donut name as the primary key, which we said is not the best one, but whatever. So it is in week 3. So it's called week 3 donuts SQL. Open that script up. And if you can't find it, it's on Blackboard. It should be on Blackboard. I am going to do a few things in here so that I save myself some time. So it's June 7 today. June 7. The date seems to be familiar. Anyway, create a table, database and a table therein to store information about tables. And notice how I say populate the table with data, display the records. Many of you, I would say 90% of the class has forgotten to put this in their assignment 1. You are selecting data, you are saying display data. And one student just didn't do any select, and I looked at it afterwards. It was not in my marking scheme. Unless you show me the data, how will I know was the table created? But anyway, so you're basically, and this is such a easy purpose. You don't even have to put a lot of brains into it. You can kind of copy and paste. If you're doing updates, you just have to say, do updates on the records. If you're doing delete, you have to say delete. But the first line, create a database and a table therein to store information about, all you have to do is change the about. Populate the table with data, remains the same. Display the records, you will definitely always display the records, right? I'm sure you will. And then if you're updating or deleting, you just have to add that. It's 2 marks, easy 2 marks. Why are you losing it, right? Sometimes you don't mention the table, sometimes you forget to mention the populate, and most of the times, 90% of the class didn't even say that show data from the table. You are doing it. I want you to say it because you're using the select statement. Anyway, so the rest will kind of do what we are doing, but here is where I'll make my changes. So I'm going to save this in a different name so that I can give it to you on Blackboard. So today is week 5. So we'll say week 5 and we'll save it and I'll give it to you. Now I've changed my mind. Not my mind. It's not the mind. It's saying if I'm creating a donut, I'm creating just information about donuts for the Canada donut lovers. And I want to say, oh, this one is available here. This one is available here. Then names can match. Timmy's could have a Nutella and I don't know what other names. Oh, Cream Crispy could have the same Nutella. Then the name cannot act as a primary key. So in such cases, the name cannot act, the type cannot act, the cost cannot act, rating cannot act. Maybe I can add the company name. The company name can be unique, but in this table, I'm only talking about donuts for now. What do? What SQL allows you, and all relational database will allow you, is you can create a field, not necessarily the first field, it's just at the first position because it makes positions kind of give us clarity. I can create a field usually by the name of ID or donut ID or employee ID or whatever. ID, like its name is usually ID, which has to be an integer, though it can be small, tiny, and so on, unsigned, signed, right? And you are saying that it is an auto increment. And you make that as your primary key. Remember, a table cannot have more than one primary key. So I had to remove the primary key from the name. Now, just for your information, again for your information, there can only be one primary key in the table, right? There can only be one primary key in the table. But if you would like to impose this condition that some other field is also unique and not null, you can impose it. You can say unique, not null. So there is an option. I could say unique and not null with donut name, which is a combination of a primary key. It doesn't. Oh, I forgot my comma. You can do this. This combination is also a primary key, but you can't call it the primary key. A table can only have one primary key. But that option is available. You will say, but doesn't that make it a primary key? No, it doesn't. Your primary key of your table will be defined as your donut ID. And what is the advantage? It creates an index on the primary key. You can actually create index on any field you like. You could create an index on donut name and it will do it. There is a command called create index. What is a create index means? Sort it. Sort your data and keep it, because searching by sorting is easy. So if you wanted to, though I am not doing it here because that's not my aim, but you can always add unique. So just so that you can keep it in your mind, if the situation arises, unique can be added if required. But the table can only have one primary key. Now with this, you can use any form of int. When I say any integer type, what I'm saying is small int, long, tiny. Those are the 4, I think, that are available. You can use any integer type. Usually you will just see it as an integer. And you can also make it unsigned. If you like. And I'll tell you why, like you wouldn't like IDs to be negative numbers. So I can add unsigned to it. I can change it. So you have the option. Instead of an integer, if you know that I only have 2,000 students in the college or whatever, or I only have 150 in my section, a tiny int will work for me. Why would I go with an integer that takes 8 bytes? Whereas a tiny int takes 1 byte. And I know that my IDs are positive. I can say tiny int unsigned. So you can do anything, but it has to be an integer type. Signed or unsigned depends upon you. It cannot be a character or a varchar or a bit, or no other type is allowed. What does this auto increment mean is what we have to understand now. What does it do? And how does it automatically become unique and not null is the big question. Just by saying primary key, will it automatically become not null? No. Like, I mean, how will it generate these values? This auto increment is generating the values. So what I'm going to do is, now since I have this extra field, and I am not going to add that value, I'll take this donut name and everything and I'll put it in a list here because now I'm not adding the ID. Remember, when you don't add the ID, then you have to give a list here. So Control V was my first one. Donut type is my second one. Cost is my third one. And rating is my fourth one. Now you have to mention the list because you're not giving donut ID in the data. Now, programmers who go with this idea that even if I can find a primary key in my table, I won't bother it. I'll just do an auto increment primary key. I'm not one of them. I don't like to put auto increment primary keys because where is the identification? They're just numbers. Student ID is an identification because it makes sense. So if you go to the registrar's office, you say, this is my student ID, it makes sense. But if you just had an ID, like, of course, your student IDs are generated like this. They're not generated manually. So in the database, they're automatically generated and you are given that student ID. Similarly for employees, the HR generates them automatically by using auto increment and I get that number. But otherwise, if you kind of think of otherwise, if I wanted to select something from a table, I don't know its ID by virtue of just being, because it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, right? So let's see what happens. I have not added the ID myself. I haven't. So where is that field? What does it get? And then I'm going to do a few things. I'm going to remove the extra select statements. Because you know what, like otherwise every time I run it, it's going to give me a whole crap. Okay, so what have I left? I have some insert statements, another insert statement that is only taking 2 values, and then a select statement. Simple and simple. But notice how I have not added the donut ID. Nowhere have I given it in my insert statement. What happens to it? Let's see. Run it. Let's run it. And there is a select already. Notice something? By default, it has created a unique, not null ID for your table, starting from position 1. So the first record you add is 1, 2, 3. It will go on till the limit of integer, which is large. But if it's not what you want larger, go with long. But there is a restriction. There is a restriction because the largest integer you can use, I think, is long, and it is a big number, but maybe it's a restriction for you, maybe it's not, but there is still a restriction on how many. That's what happens. So people or programmers who use auto increment key says, leave it alone. Don't bother. Don't put in any values into it. Let it generate on its own. That's why we call it auto increment. And I want to show you what you can do if you try to put a value, how you can mess it up. So let's try to do the messing now. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this insert statement with Nutella. So now what does this allow? I can add another maple now. I can make it filled maybe just to kind of keep it different. Make it $3. Give it a rating of 5. But this is not a duplicate now because the name is not primary key anymore. And I didn't say it was unique. I didn't add unique anyway. Now you can add another maple, make it a ring or filled, or even if it is coming from a different company and I added the company name, I could say, oh, maple ring is available at Tim Hortons. Maple ring is also available at Krispy Kreme. I can do that. So now the name is no longer a primary key at all, but the ID is. So now when I run it, I'll have 8 records because I added another record, which is fine. Now, how can you mess up with this? Which definitely you should just avoid because it's not your job. That's why you went with auto increment. You said you do the job, but you can do it. You can add the donut ID yourself if you like. And let's try to give it a number that already exists, 6. Now you don't know that 6 has been taken. You're just giving it 6. But if I try to do this, what will I get? I'll get an error because primary key cannot be duplicated. 6 has already been used. That rule still holds. So therefore I say don't mess with it, right? So duplicate will not work. Duplicate, we already know that. You can duplicate a PK, a primary key. Thank God for that. So if you're trying to mess up, you're trying to give the values yourself, at least it will take care that it doesn't allow a duplicate. But what I don't like is this, and I'll tell you why. It's really odd. You should not be able to add null values. We know that primary key is not null, but see what it does. So I'm going to take this now. I'll try to take this now and show you something. And I'll say what happens with null. What does null PK do? According to us, it won't work. It shouldn't work. You cannot have a null. But let's see how null PK works. Instead of 6, I'll put a null here. It should give me an error again. How are you putting null in the donut ID, which is a primary key? See what it does. Look at it. It tries to be smart. And what smartness does it do? It's done. It's worked. I don't see an error. So what does it do? It has added it and it has automatically given it 9, the next in sequence. So syntactically, it didn't give me an error, fine. And logically, it said, you can put null in it. Let me give you a number. And it did it. Some may find it useful. Oh, by mistake, I'm putting null, but it is giving a number. The others may find it frustrating that this statement should have given a logical error when I run it. But that's what I said. Don't mess with it. I can even do this, which is again odd, but I can do this because I can put a negative value. Nobody stops me. I didn't make it unsigned. But of course, you can take care of it because I can always add unsigned there. Kind of odd, but you can do it. Nothing stops you. It's an integer. So you'll see that minus 16 is back. Is there. Right? So, and what if you you want to change the sequence? So it was a 9. Remember the last number was 9. Let me do something like, I don't know, 20. And it will add again. 20 is added. There it is. Now let me try to add again without the ID. I'll say, oh, I've done enough of playing now. Let me remove the ID again. Let's see what it does. Is it confused? Oh, I left at 9. Now it has become 20. There minus 16 had been added. What do I do now? Oh, let me show you with select. It is smart enough to start where you left off. So you left off at 20, it went to 21. But also keep in mind 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 are lost. Lost in the sense they are not used. That's why the bottom line is leave the auto increment field alone. Let the system add it for you. That's why it is called auto increment. That's why programmers love it. They don't have to bother with it. It says, good, let it start with 1. Every time I add, let it increment. If you delete a record, the deleted number is gone. You will never get it back. Unless you insert it yourself manually, but the system will not reuse it. See, it didn't reuse 10, 11 till 19. It just didn't reuse it. Because the last one it remembered was 21. And that's what it did. And even after the minus 16, even after the minus 16, if you try to insert a record, without the ID, it will go to 10 because before that, the last number remembered was 9. So you didn't give an ID, it will go to 10. We'll use 10 because 9 is where it stopped. You will see a 10 in between after the minus 16. Oh, error. Duplicate entry 20. Oh, where did I get 20 from? Oh, because I've run it before. Okay, let me run the whole script. Because I run it and keep running it. So notice the 10 was added after minus 16. So it left at 9. You added minus 16, then it reverted back to 10 because 9 was the last one it remembered. Then you added 20. So 20 was the last one it remembered. So the next one it added was 21. So if you mess with it, it does get kind of out of sequence. But it will never work with negative numbers automatically. See, after minus 16, it didn't go to minus 17. It went to 10. It went to the positive number. So though you can add negative numbers, auto increment field does not add 0 or negative numbers. It only goes positive. So you can add it because you didn't say it was unsigned. So a better would be to make it unsigned so that the user doesn't add negative values because it doesn't make sense adding negative values. And anything that is lost, if I delete a record and then add it again, you will see that it doesn't use that number. It's gone. It will never be reused because it can't keep remembering all this nonsense stuff. You know what I mean? Like it just cannot. So if I delete the first record itself, then the donut ID 1 will never be used again. 1 will not be. It just forgets about it. So keep that in mind and I'll just write it. Insert. So it reverts to 21. It will start with 21. Then here it will use 10, not minus 17. Minus 16 is minus 17. Then, oh, sorry, when you add 1, it becomes minus 15. It doesn't use negative values. And doesn't even use 0 because it starts at 1 automatically. All this I'll put on blackboard, so don't worry if you're understanding it. And again, you have to keep something in mind. If you delete a record, if records are deleted, the ID is not reused. The deleted donut IDs are not used. You should know it. You can try it. It's not a big deal. They're not used. You can try deleting one and then adding one. It won't. So let's try to delete some record. I'll just delete the first record because I'm being lazy. Delete from the table was called table donuts. Though it's not a good idea to use the limit thing. Let me do a where. Let's try to delete the apple one where donut name is apple. Or you can say donut name is maple or whatever, or the Nutella ones we've been adding forever. So this will delete it. So 2 is gone. Okay. So second record will go. So let me delete it and run it. It should go away. It should not be there anymore. It's not there. Now let me try to add another one just for the heck of it. And see what's the new one it gives. This one will give 22 because 21 was the last one. Does not use 2. See, there it is 22. It's come at that position, but its ID is not 2. The ID is 22. It didn't use the 2 ID. So it took that spot, it found an empty spot and put it, but didn't give the same ID. So it never reuses the same ID. So that ID is lost, kind of. So that's why it's kind of said, leave them alone. Let it do its job. Because that's why you went with an auto increment key. One more thing that I must mention just because it's kind of may be required. If you do not want to start with 1, by default it is starting with 1, but you want to start with something like, I don't know, just for the heck of it, 100, then you can do this. You can alter the auto increment primary key to start from not a 1, from 100, say. Only positive numbers are allowed, okay? So that you know. I tried with a negative, it gave me an error. And how do you do it? This is how you do it. You haven't learned the statement yet, but it's not so tough. Alter the table. You're changing the structure of the table. Which table do you want to alter? Table donuts. What do you want to do? You want to take the auto increment key and set it to say 100. And you will see that now instead of saying 1, 2, 3, 4, it will go 100, 101, 102. But negative values are not allowed, and I tried 0 also, but it still started from 1. Zero is ignored. I can show you. So the negative will give you a syntax error straight away. You will see a red. So negative numbers are not allowed. You know that. We know it's syntactically not allowed. As soon as you do this, it goes red. Zeros are allowed. I'll show you zeros are allowed, but it still starts with the 1. So let's try this 100 now. With all the mess I've made, but my main aim is to show you 100. Why that 111? Because we deleted a record and then added it. So it can be 102, like it took it away and gave it 111. And then 102, 103. So 101 is gone. It was the Apple one. 102, 103, 4, 5, 6, 7, minus 16 because I added it, 20 because I added it. So whatever I added is there, but otherwise it's going from 100 to whatever. And just to show you that 0 works, like it doesn't give you a syntax error. I don't see any red squiggly, but if I run it, it starts with 1. Doesn't start with a 0. So it automatically, you can start it with a positive number if you like 100. And sometimes it's required. For example, the company may decide, oh, student numbers should be 5 digits long. So they start from 10,000. They just want it to be of a particular size because 1, 2, 3, 4 kind of, maybe it looks odd to them. All your student IDs are of the same size actually. They are the same 7 or 9 lettered word. And our employee IDs are 4, I think. So they you just start from a different number. So you can do it. It's not necessary, but just so that you know, it can be done for whatever purposes. So alter table is just a statement which alters the structure of the table. And what are you altering in the structure? You're saying auto increment as 100. So you're not actually altering the structure, which is its main use, which we will learn next week. But it is a statement that alters the structure of a table. So you could do this if you like. So what have you learned at the bottom line? The bottom line is leave a, so the bottom line is let the auto increment field be what it is. That's why it is called auto increment. Don't mess with it. Then you don't have to bother. And that's why some programmers like it. You don't have to bother, right? It's unique. It starts with 1. They can change it if they want. And it's one field that they don't have to worry about. It is unique. It is not null, and it is an identification field. So their job is done, right? So if you can't find a field or a group of fields, you can combine fields also to make a primary key. Then the thing is, let it go, leave it alone. So that's how you can create it. But as I said, you can, if you like, you can change the type, any type, use any integer type, small int, long, whatever, and you can also go unsigned. That option is allowed, which is good. Then I won't be able to put in negative values, even if I wanted to. That option is allowed, right? Now let's do one more thing. So this is week, oh, it's called just week donuts instead of week 5. Okay, I'll have to just save it as, otherwise I'll never find it. So this is week 5 donuts. You know what? It's not okay. I'm going to kind of save it as, oh, sorry. I'm going to save it as another one and show you something else. And I'll say weekday and inside. I'll just call it PK because I want to show you something else. Where did it go? Here. I thought this is the one I was working on. This is the one I was saving as. Come on. Yeah, something, one more thing. Okay, there. This is also June 7th, so it's no big deal, but I'm going to do something here. I don't have a primary key. I just don't have one. The table does not have a primary key. Right? So I'm just doing as if I did your first class where there was no primary key. Now the table is already done. The company is running. There are thousands of records in the table. Everything is fine. And now the guy says, you know what, I'm finding it very difficult. Can you put a primary key? Because you didn't design it well to begin with. And that's what I said. Design itself is a big process. And he said, you know what, now I want a primary key. Or maybe you've left the job, another person comes in and says, what the hell, this table doesn't even have a primary key. That's the minimum designing requirement. What do? They can just change it here in the script and rerun the whole script. But it's easy for us. It takes us less than a minute. But think of a real-time situation where it's an online system going on. You can't stop it anytime. You can't rerun the script because rerunning is taking an hour or so. And you say, what do I do now? You can give one simple single statement to add a primary key to the table. All it does is it just adds a column and it adds those values. It doesn't disturb anything else. So you don't have to shut off nothing. It's running everything. It's being added behind the scenes. So suppose this table, so a dropper table, create a table. Defining its field. So it's not in the first normal form, right? Maybe it's too late to say, oh, you were doing everything well. Why are you doing this? Because I'm going to do the alter table statement with you, which I said I'll do next week. I'll do the major part next week. I just want to show you because we are talking about auto increment. I just want to show it to you here. So this table doesn't have a primary key. So if it doesn't have a primary key, I've put in records, everything is okay. I can even put in maple twice because name is not nothing. It's just normal table. There's nothing in it. I put something else and so on. I'll remove all this stuff except the select. Now the new programmer comes, joins the company, and he says, this is a table. It has thousands of records. I can't delete. I can't reinvent the table. I can't add it because while he's adding it, he'll have to lock the table and so on. Nobody can use it. It's required. And so whatever the issues are. But what he can do is you can add a primary key. You can add a primary key using the alter table statement. Now there are two ways. You may choose something from the table. Oh, donut name is good. Let me make that the primary key. But that can create problems if there are two maples, for example, you will have problems in your data. There will be inconsistency. But if you want to add a primary key, which is auto increment, it's very easy to do. So it's as easy as this. It's not a big deal. It's just one statement. So on the command line, the programmer runs this command. It's not necessary to write a script and run it. Remember, we can run, it's a scripting language. You can just run a command on the command line also. Okay, this is how you do it. You alter your table. What is the name of your table? Table donuts. Was it? Yes. You're going to add a primary key. Hopefully I remember the syntax. You're going to add a primary key. Now, what kind of primary can you add? Now you could be adding something that you want, you wish, a new something called, I don't know, company name or something. But then who will populate it with data? You know what I mean? Like it will be empty. And as soon as it is empty, it will come up saying primary key cannot be empty because primary key cannot be null and it cannot be empty. It has to be unique. Then, so now did the hen come first or did the egg come first kind of stuff? I can add a new column, sure. I can populate it with data, but I cannot add a column and make it the primary key before adding the data. So you can add a column, you can put data into it and then make it a primary key. That will work. So you'll have to change the sequence. Or if you don't want to bother, you can't think of anything, any field or whatever. This is the easiest way. I'm going to add a column. Call it whatever you like. The word column is not necessary, but I use it because it kind of is. I'm going to add a column called donut ID to the table, right? I'm going to make it an integer. The rest is all the same. I'm going to make it auto increment. And I'll make it the primary key. Job is done. So one statement, so the table was created, it had records, I didn't want to change the structure, whatever the issues were. But I want to add a primary key to the table. This is what will add an auto increment primary key to the table. Okay? That's all you can do. You cannot add anything. You cannot add a column which is empty. In that case, you will first have to add a column. You will have to populate it with data, use insert statements, then make it the primary key. This one, you're doing what? You're saying it is an auto increment one. So the column gets added. You've told it is auto increment. It will automatically fill it with 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. And you've said it is the primary key. And it will associate itself with the records already present. And then any new records that you add will come. So makes it easy. Let's try it. Does it work? So before this, you won't see. So for a minute, I'm going to remove this. And I'm going to run my script. Looks good enough? Whatever, looks good enough? Now I'm going to add that primary key. And it's a simple one. It says alter my table, add a new column, make it an integer, make it auto. You can add whatever you like. Make it unsigned, make it tiny int, whatever, and make it the primary key. Let's run it again. See what it did? It added donut ID to it, and it put in values 1, 2, 3. And now it becomes my primary key also. You'll say, how do you know it became the primary key? Remember that statement of display the structure? What was it? Do you remember? I always forget it. It's display something. I think it's display structure. I could be wrong. Or is it show structure? Display is looking okay. Structure looking okay. No, it doesn't like it. Oh God, I always forget how do you show the describe. Describe. There it is, describe. The table name. I don't know why I keep calling it display because, and that's what comes in my head. Let's describe it. Let's describe it before and let's describe it afterwards. You will see it does not have a primary key before. And it now will have a primary key. And notice, and just because it's in the last position, though there is nothing wrong that it is in the last position, you can always add first and it will come in the first position. As I said, just by virtue that human beings like to see identification at the first place. That's the virtue. That's the reason I'm putting it at first. You can do that too. Okay, so now let's run it again. Okay, so that's my description before I had a primary key. Do you see anything called primary in any of the fields? No. That's my description after I added a primary key. There it is. It's not null. And it is auto increment. That's its extra feature. It is an auto increment field. And that's the table. So the world does not come to an end if you forget to add a primary key. You can always add it afterwards. And the easiest way to add it afterwards is the auto increment. That's the easiest. You could add it another way, as I said, add it, populate it, make it the primary key. You can also make donut name the primary key if you like. If you change your mind and say, oh, I want to make it the primary key, how do I do it? We'll learn how to do that. Definitely in the next class. This was just because we were talking about auto increment. And you can set the auto increment to 100 if you like. Nothing, I mean, you can start from 100. The same, you can do alter table and you can say 100. So those statements can still be done. But this has allowed you to do it. But having said all that, I still recommend strongly that when you design a database, that you should design your tables well. And designing tables is a whole database design course in its own right. The minimum, at least in this class, that we can do is make our tables in the first normal form. When we are working with a table, when we go to more tables, we'll talk about second and third normal form. But that is the minimum requirement. Create a primary key for the table and ensure that every field has no repeating data. Right? So we won't start wrong, but at least you know how to save yourself. So you go into a company, the table is already, the database and tables exist. You say that's a very bad job done by whoever. So let me rectify it at least. So you can do it. It can be done. Okay. So I'll save this also on Blackboard for you. Now you have your third assignment ready. I'll post it on Blackboard for you. But before I post it, I will just give it a read. Usually I just want to read it once before I post it, just in case I've made any mistakes. But that will be on, and I'll give you time till tomorrow or maybe the weekend also, because I'm not marking it anyway, right? I'm still behind my marking. So you will have your third in-class assignment and it is ready, except that, where is it? Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, it's on update and delete, not the solution, of course. Where is it? Here. I'll just open it in file changed, file. Users, whatever Thursday week 5 donuts PK from connection was changed from outside my workbench. I didn't change it. Okay. I hope I saved it. That's strange, but anyway, so I should have opened it in TextPad. Okay, so the third in-class assignment, again, I've given you, I did comment the second one so that you had an idea. So it needs your name and the purpose, and then fill in all the comments at certain lines, which is very easy. It's not a big job, but I'm trying to keep you in the picture. And then you will notice that, again, I'm still with the drink names and so on. Really doesn't matter, right? It just is that you know about the data, so you don't have to bother about the data. And then I have given you some updates to do, and then some deletes to do. Right? So that's what you've learned today. So I'll just kind of give it a read before I post it on Blackboard. Like I just made a change of that 8.61 and 42.45, 0.52, whatever. I'll just give it a read once before, and then I'll put it on Blackboard for you. And your job will be to put in comments, put the updates and deletes. And again, when you are done, we'll take some time to mark it in class, review it in class. And these comments that I've asked of you are really easy. Don't lose marks on them. They're like I've been doing it. Set the environment, drop the table if it exists, create the table, populate it with data, select all. Like how big is it? Nothing. But they have marks. So better not forget it. Okay. So this will come up on Blackboard. I just want to give it a read. It may be, I mean, I don't see much. The only thing I forget is, did I save because it was saying ignore the changes. God knows which changes were ignored, but. And I'll also put all work that we've done today on Blackboard, okay? So you will have everything on Blackboard. So we were working with the PK week 5. What was the last change I made? I did an alter table. And I ran it. Yeah, looks okay. Can go on Blackboard. Okay, so I'll do that for you. And what is it today? Thursday. Though it's not more than an hour work. Is this a long weekend? No, it's not the long weekend. Let me give you till Sunday. Does that work? But don't email me asking me questions on the weekend, please. That's why I don't try to give work on weekends, because then questions are asked and I don't feel good if I don't answer them. So I'm answering questions. That's why I try to keep it on weekdays. Does tomorrow look okay? What do you think? Is tomorrow midnight okay? It's just 10 questions. Are we okay with tomorrow midnight? That way I can answer. Okay, tomorrow midnight is the due time then. Okay, let me put it on Blackboard for you. Oh, and the solution for ICA 2 has gone on Blackboard. Are we all okay? I mean, it's not a big thing, therefore but just because I'm giving it to you. So assignments. I should have put it already, but I don't show it to you till I kind of satisfy myself that everything is okay. So I'm going to reload this file, overwrite this file with the new one that we just made a change to, though it was not a big change. So in class assignments, 3, there it is. Oh, the rubric. I may have to look at the rubric, which I can add afterwards, but still. I can give you the rubric also, okay? Yeah, I'll give you the rubric, guys. Don't worry. So how to submit, rename it. Please ensure it has running before you submit it. Okay, I only marked till where it runs. This time I'm going to be a little, I mean, in the first one I saw, even if it was not running, I gave marks. But in this one, the script must run. So I'll come around and see your script is running at least, and then you can mark it, okay? Okay, so now the due date with all your consent is, what is it tomorrow? June 8th, 11:59 p.m. Because we have one more on alter to do, so. So tomorrow is June 8th, yes, and 11:59 p.m. So everything looks okay. I will put up, it's 33 shows me there is a rubric, but I'll put up the rubric. That's not a big thing. And I'll make it available to you. Make it available. There, ICA 3 is now posted. Any questions for me, or are we good? Thursday section. Oh, I've missed the 4th section. Okay. Yes.
So I'm Allie. I'm technically in your Wednesday class. Did I submit mine tonight at midnight?
No, it's tomorrow midnight for everybody.
Oh, okay, for the other class too?
Everybody.
Okay,
I've just
perfect.
posted it.
Okay.
I've just posted it. How are you, Mohammed?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Living along.
That's good. What's the assignment?
Just
now?
posted it.
Just
Yes.
for this class, right? Not our class.
Just finished class with them. Now I've posted it.
Oh, okay. You see this?
See what?
She doesn't post our assignment until you guys finish your class.
Because we are,
Yeah, she doesn't like our class.
I told them I love them. Therefore, I don't give them assignments. He doesn't see it that way.
I know, perspective.
Yeah, it's a perspective, right?
I'm kidding.
I know.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm good.
Don't grab food yet. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm hungry too.
Since 6 o'clock this morning.
You think I have?
Look at me, look at you. Wow, I need the way.
He's not in so kind words telling you something.
So this assignment needs to run. It's supposed to run.
Of course, every assignment must run, right?
But like you say on that day, we have to show you it's running. But how are we going to show you it's running if we're like not back with you tomorrow?
Oh, that's okay. When
Yeah.
we come next time, I'll just quickly go
Okay.
around. You
Yeah.
don't have to worry about that.
Professor, is it okay if we put select statements before and after deleting and updating this?
Sure, yeah. Sure. You should. I mean, that's how you will know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did. Oh, for your own assignment?
assignment, yeah.
Sure, that's fine. Whatever works for you. It will be good for me. I can see the answers.
Yeah.
You will be marking it yourself, so. But yes, if time doesn't permit, maybe I'll have to mark it. So it's good to have them anyway. Sometimes I don't get time to mark it in class, so I do it myself.
See ya.
See you. Take care.